Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Superman the Animated Series Season 2, Little Girl Lost. So this is the episode where Supergirl finally appears, and HBO Max has it listed as the last two episodes because it's a two-parter. I'm just gonna have to take their word for it. I don't remember exactly what number the episode comes in because when it comes to The Batman, they combined season 1 and 2 into season 1 for some bizarre reason. And so, like, this is kind of weird because it lasted for 5 seasons. I don't understand the logic behind that. It's almost like they're trying to say the show was shorter than what it really was. But anyway, I love Supergirl to death. I actually like her more than Superman. Mainly because every time I see her on screen, she's just so cute and stuff, whether it's live action or animation or whatever. And it first started with the Supergirl movie. And so, like, I remember when she appeared in this series, I was like ecstatic. And I was very shocked by the costume they gave her, but I really liked it. And so, but there's some weird things about this version of Kara that's different from most comic book incarnations and stuff. So first, she's voiced by Nicole Tom, and I love Nicole Tom. She's from The Nanny, and her voice is so great as Kara. And she's actually my favorite, like, animated version of Supergirl and voice and stuff. Some of the other voices they've had in animation, like, I don't know, it just didn't really hit me in the same way. Sadly, however, she doesn't voice the character of Kara no more. Not sure why. She still appears in other stuff. Like she appeared in an episode of Gotham. And so, but whenever they do, like, it's because, I don't know, it's like so weird. They always bring back voices from the DCAU, but they haven't brought her back yet for some bizarre reason. And so, like, this version of Supergirl is not Superman's cousin. And the reason for that is because DC at that time only wanted Superman to be like the last like person of Krypton. And so Bruce Timm and his team, they decided to make like another planet called Argo, and so like it was kind of like their brother planet because they call Krypton their sister planet. And on the other planet, like, it's just like Krypton, and it got destroyed because of Krypton blowing up. And so I always thought that was kind of weird, like, because people know her as like his cousin. Now in the show, when she's under her disguise and everything, she just says she's his cousin and stuff like that. So throughout the entire series, like, they have like just like a brother sister kind of like relationship, but they're not related whatsoever. And then in Justice League Unlimited, Green Arrow tells her she's probably your cousin. And of course, this is just a nod to the fans, but of course, we know that's not true. And her last name's not even L because of that fact. So it is kind of weird. But then when they gave her like a completely different costume from a different Supergirl in the comics, you know what? They should have just went with that version instead of trying to make it so close to the one we know. And unlike Batgirl and Batman the Animated Series, the first appearance of Supergirl is literally just like she shows up and she becomes Supergirl. There's never no like foreshadowing, nothing like that, like they did with Batgirl. It just literally they just threw her in, and they threw her in so like perfectly. It felt like with no effort, like writing and stuff. So that always was like a letdown. And so like I do like how like stubborn and fierce and disobedient she is. Like she always does the opposite of what Superman tells her. And that's how she's supposed to be like in the comics. Melissa Benoist's character was never like that. They just wrote her to be like a Clark Kent type clone because they couldn't make a Superman series at that time. And so like with this episode, basically we have Superman and he's flying around throughout space. And he opened up a wormhole to go back to where Krypton blew up. And because he's looking for like any of his people, but realize everybody is dead. And so I do like the little spacesuit they gave him because they had to depower him in this show, but just weird. Like sometimes they have him in space flying around in a spacesuit, and other times he's just flying around as himself. So it's like make up your mind. Can he breathe in outer space or not? And so, but then he finds life on another planet, and when he goes there, it is literally in ruins. And so he activate like, this like memory computer thing and it tells the story of what happened. We see Kara's mother talking about how like, they lived on their planet until Krypton blew up. And when Krypton blew up, like, the blast pretty much vaporized everything in their planet. We actually see people like straight up die in real time and stuff. I'm surprised they let them show that on a kid's cartoon. And so they said, the only thing they could do is put themselves in chamber stasis until like, the whole energy blast thing will like pass. Only problem with that, when he went to the stasis units, they're all gone. Like you see these huge like spike of ice, like rock type things, bursting through the stasis units, through people's chests. I'm like, man, how are they able to get away with that? But then, of course, he finds one that's completely untouched, and that's the one with Kara in it. So then it cuts from that, and then we see her flying around Smallville. And I really love how they have her flying around. It really shows, like, it really looks real the way she's flying around, having fun with her powers and stuff, flying around with the ducks. And of course, Clark doesn't like that, so he had to pull her down. And he tells her, you gotta keep your secret a secret and everything. And he kind of lectured her a little bit and stuff. And so, like, they're hanging out at like his parents' place, and they're talking about Intergang in like the newspaper. She wants to know what's that all about, and he doesn't want her to know. He does not want her to be a superhero. But she's all like, I've always wanted to save people and blah, blah, blah. And I got all these powers now. And, because she's feeling uneasy. She's literally like, what's that phrase? A fish out of water and everything. She came from like this alien society where she had no powers and they were very advanced. Now she's in the Stone Age and she got all these powers and he won't let her use them. Not to mention, he has her growing up on a farm like him. And because he feels like if she grows up the way he did, then she'll be like a better person and all this other stuff when she's ready to be an adult. And so, like, it's weird because, she is an adult, but she's in the body of a teenager because she was frozen for so many years. And so, like, when he's back in Metropolis, she decides she's going to disobey him. And she puts on a disguise. She's wearing, like, this weird 80s type jacket. She has this big, like, brown wig and glasses. Now, what's so weird about that is I didn't understand at that time, why exactly is she in disguise if nobody knows what she looks like and nobody knows who she is? And so she pretends to be his cousin. Well, at some point in time, Superman actually does fight Intergang, and he's pretty much getting his butt kicked by a bunch of teenagers. This version of Intergang has technology from like Apocalypse, and of course the Apocalypse episode was just like prior to this. Now, Intergang in the comics is literally just like a mafia type gang, but they always try to like, make them seem more fancier in animation and in the movies. And so when she's at like, the Daily Bugle, Clark is not happy. She's there in disguise and tells her to go back to his place in Metropolis and stay out of Intergang's way. Well, Jimmy Olsen is having a bit of a hard time with Lois. She wants him to kind of like butt out as well. So I like the parallel dynamic between the two. They're both kind of like the sidekicks or the teen sidekicks, and the adults don't want them hanging around. So Kara overhears this and decides, hey, they won't let us hang with them and figure out this whole inner gang thing, then we should do it ourselves. But she does it without her wig and glasses. And I always thought that was kind of weird. Like, why is she showing him, her blonde hair and stuff like that? Well, anyway, they track down the teenagers at an arcade game because Jimmy found an arcade, coin and everything. So after they track it down and they find out, the two teenagers that was part of in the game, they follow them. And they follow them back to a warehouse full of other teenagers who've been stealing stuff. It turns out they work for Granny Goodness. And this Granny Goodness is voiced by Ed Asner, a male, and he sounds just like a female. And may he rest in peace. He was also the voice of Hudson in Gargoyles and stuff. And so after they get caught, Kara reveals herself like she's wearing her costume that she made herself underneath her regular clothes. So it makes sense now why she didn't wear the wig around Jimmy, because she just planned on ripping her clothes off. And that's something Clark would be very pissed about. Just her exposing herself like that and also taking up the mantle, calling herself Supergirl. And I love her outfit. It's like a white t-shirt, white gloves, a blue skirt, and a tiny red cape. And, because, her normal costume from, the other version of Kara in the comics is just like that of Superman. And so, she beats up on Intergang a little bit until Granny Goodness decides, you know what, I'm gonna call in the Furies and everything. And the Furies is Darkseid's personal enforcers of females. There's Stomper and I forget the other names, but they pretty much are too much for Kara to handle. Superman oversees this with his X-ray vision, and he comes in to stop them, but they end up whooping on him. Basically, they take him back to Apokolips, so Darkseid can train and torture him and stuff. Well, of course, Kara's not gonna let that happen, so she finds a mother box and she goes to Apokolips. And I like how she goes there for the first time. Everything is just so horrid over there. And of course, she's being attacked by all of Darkseid's soldiers and minions and stuff. Eventually, she does find Clark, or Superman. And so we get to see Supergirl beat up on all the Furies and all this other stuff and rescue Superman. So they're all trying to fight their way out, and then they get a boom tube back to Earth because Darkseid brought a comet to Earth with some kind of weird device that Granny Goodness had built on Earth. So Supergirl thinks, okay, well, I'm just going to destroy the super magnet thing. But of course, Superman's pissed because he's all I could have used it to make the comet not come towards Earth. So he goes off into outer space to try to stop it. But he doesn't want her to come. And so it's too much for him and it breaks apart. And it's a huge chunk coming towards Metropolis and everything. So she feels you know what? I might kill myself trying to stop this thing, but I always wanted to be a hero and save folks. So being Supergirl impulsive, unlike Superman, she flies directly into it and just breaks it up into a million pieces. Superman, on the other hand, deflects the rest of the comet into space, and he has to save Supergirl from falling to her death because she's pretty much unconscious at this point. After he saves her, he realized that, she has to make her own path in life, and having her around wouldn't be so bad. So he accepts her and tells the world that that's his cousin and all this other stuff. And so basically it ends with her flying around, being happy with her powers as Supergirl. And I really like how he came to accept her when he originally didn't want to. And even though this episode isn't planned out that well, it's still a very good episode nevertheless. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.